discussing smoke-free or alcohol-free parks. We want to get thoughts and comments. I'm not opposed to either of them. I think that we have some parks that are already alcohol-free, but maybe not all of them. I don't even know that yet. So to me, it's getting some information and understanding. You may all have more experience with it, but understanding the pros and cons of doing this. And I'm certainly willing to listen, and I think there are reasons why we could put a ban of both tobacco and alcohol, but I think there are also reasons why, enforcement issues and a lot of other things. So I welcome the discussion, but I think maybe the best we might do in the limited time we have left is hear everybody out, maybe give staff some direction on, here's some additional information we'd like to get, or maybe we'll be far enough along to say, would you put together or find an ordinance that does this or that, and so further, that we can discuss further. But I have a lot of, I need a lot more analysis than I have, just because I haven't been involved in these issues yet.
Well, I'll just throw a little bit in. I know staff has been looking at the issue over the years. In 1998, I outlawed, we changed the ordinance to prohibit alcohol in about 28 different parks. It started primarily because of, we were having issues in Redmond. Redmond Park had already been no alcohol, but police department came to us, Officer Harrison came to council based on input from staff and neighborhood associations to get rid of alcohol in Houston Park, and we then expanded it to other parks. We did not include some of the large destination parks, Ellis, Beaver, some of those, because city actually sells alcohol at our golf courses. But in the others, because we had softball at the time, we didn't want to kick the softball players out. So we did all of those. At the time, we didn't do Green Square because the JCs were having Uptown Friday nights in there. It was a recommendation from our Lieutenant Garvey's on our Green Square Park Committee. It was a recommendation from that core group. We have people that are bringing alcohol in 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's in the brown paper sack. They're there all day long. That's one of the issues. And one beer leads to another, and then there's other alcohol, not just beer. But maybe Corey wants to give to you. That's on the alcohol. I have no problem doing that. On the smoking, we tried to get rid of, I think your options are, we'd love to see no smoking in Green Square right off the bat. You want to expand that to other city parks, which I would support. I'm fine with that. If you want to expand that to other city parks, including the golf courses, I'm fine with that. Those are your three options there.
I'd just like to say, today, this is the first time we've had any information or any discussion. I know very little about appreciating Councilman Dale's or Councilman Todd's information. We need to have the city staff put all the information about what the history is, what it is now relative to the different parks, as well as other city grounds all over the city, including golf courses and everything else, so that we get all the information, and then determine where we go from there. I'm not expressing any opinion one way or the other at this point. I just don't have any information. I have a meaningful discussion on it.
Yes.
Scott and I talked earlier about this, and one of the things that I think we kind of need to remember and be respectful of, which was a good point, was we're getting a new director, Parks and Recreation Director. And in my opinion, this could be a bit controversial, especially if you decide you're going to take cigars away from golfers at golf courses who always claim that they don't inhale and it just keeps the bugs away. Right? So I think that out of respect for the new Parks and Recreation Director, we should, that it's pretty tough to go to come in right away when you're faced with something like that. Plus, he may have some additional experience that we could take advantage of, so I think that's a very good point, Scott. And that we should probably, July 9th.
9th is when it comes in, okay, I didn't know whether it had a date.
Yeah, but to Scott's point, Scott, Overland's point, there are some parks that we rent the pavilions that bring cakes in, or they bring beers in for a family reunion or something like that. I never smoked, I'd be fine with banning smoking, but that, do we have to do both of them? What kind of information is out there that we need to have before we can make this decision? So, Green Square Park, Dale did yeoman's work on that, and I've thanked you before for that work, and I appreciated that I could hop on board with immediately, Dale. I think that's appropriate, and then work a little farther along the line once our new director gets in and see, and we get more information perhaps.
I don't disagree. As I said earlier, I'd like to get some more information about the pros and cons of doing this, but if our police department says that the drinking in Green Square is really an issue right now, I would certainly be willing to consider putting that on our next council agenda and banning it. Again, I'd like to understand what parks can have alcohol, what parks can't, and you gave me a little history. Is that decision made 10 years ago and no one's looked at it again? But if that will help solve some of the issues at Green Square, I'm all for it.
It won't solve the issues, but it's a piece of a comprehensive solution to some of the issues that are there. And so, we had sent the report out about a month ago, and we sent a follow-up that this is a recommendation. And since that period of time, staff's not going to do anything until we tell them to do something. And I know that in the past, staff, Parks Director, made the recommendation to remove the previous one, to remove smoking from parks. That passed on a 9-zip vote of the Park and Rec Commission. But when it came to council, it didn't pass. And one of the realities is, it's a controversial issue. It was controversial when we stopped smoking in taverns. It's controversial when I tried to do it 20 years ago. But at this point in time, I think there's enough data, enough evidence out there that we know what the implications of it are. And so if we need more time to study, I'm fine. But in all honesty, if I was the Parks Director coming in, I wish you guys would pass it, so that I wouldn't have to, I could blame it on you guys. But I respect what you want to do.
Should we put on our agenda for next council meeting, the discussion, the possibility of banning alcohol at Green Square?
And Mayor, just so you know, the reason for this is that one of the other recommendations was signage. We want to get a sign, and we would like to have these things incorporated into the signage. And the longer we put this off, the longer Angie and her team have to wait for the signage.
Yeah,
Signage is another part of it.
right, absolutely. And like, you can make an argument that having this effective next park season makes sense too, just because you have plenty of time to warn people. You can warn them all winter long, all spring, and so instead of halfway through the summer, you no longer can smoke in this park, or you no longer can drink in this park. So, if the key, one of the key issues that got some of this started is the issues that drinking in Green Square, the issues that are being created by drinking in Green Square. Let's deal with that now.
Well, I think we need, multiple people have brought this up, but, I think we need some kind of recommendation from the police department, from Parks and Recreation, whether or not it's before or after the new director comes. I mean, to me, that's an important piece of information when I make a decision about a piece of policy like this, is what is the recommendation? Now, we can ignore it or take it, or, obviously that's our prerogative, but, Chief German and the police department are the experts on public safety and as it relates to the city, and if they think it's gonna help, so I would like to hear that. So I'm not sure we're necessarily ready to put it on a council agenda before we can, I don't know what the timeline is to pull like that kind of data and recommendation together is.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on getting a report from the Parks Department and from the Police Department?
You know, we can get that done quickly. You know, as far as parks and police, I'd say, you know, within 30 days, you know, we can have a recommendation, but it's not gonna be, you know, I've heard some reference to the new parks director. I mean, Scott's gonna get here, you know, early, second week in July, basically. So we're gonna have to, you know, move without that, the benefit of his expertise. I definitely don't want to delay anything the council wants to do. I will say he does have some experience with this in that important, so he could deal with the issue.
Yeah.
But, you know, we recommended before the tobacco issue, the no tobacco issue in parks. And as Councilman Todd said, that went to the Planning Commission, and the commission, excuse me, the Parks and Rec Board, and they supported that recommendation. So it was the council that had the significant issues. So I think give us a date and we will provide the information to the council. We are not, you know, we want to meet the council's demands, and staff's not going to slow this up. And you know, I can have that recommendation quickly, but it's more complicated than just saying yes or no, because there's all, you know, we've talked about, is it just Green Square? I think that can be very, very fast. But if we're talking, and are we talking about alcohol and tobacco at Green Square? And then what about the other parks? That could take a little longer to analyze. But the Green Square issue, which I think is the one that Councilman Todd has been, you know, most concerned with, along with a number of us, we can move quickly on that. I mean, it's one park, so we can, you know, within, I don't know, you know, within 30 days, we can have a, you know, we'll put it on the council agenda and move quickly, or just do it today, just,
This
you know.
is simply,
Yeah.
this is a political decision.
Yeah.
Marion, the great city of West Des Moines,
Yes.
Des Moines, they've all done this, and it's passed. And believe me, law enforcement, they're not stopping their squad car and going in the park just to write somebody a ticket. In fact, they don't write tickets. It's used as a tool. And so, yeah, I think, Mayor, think about how you might want to run this. If you want to run them all together and take your political lickings at once, I'm fine with that. But if you want to get Green Square done right now too, I'm open to whatever you guys want to do.
Mayor, one of the things, Jeff, that I'd ask your team to kind of explore with the police department is that sense of, enforceability. Dale talked about how they've done it in maybe other locations, but are they, is it truly, what if they catch people smoking? Are they gonna fine them? Are they gonna give them a citation? I mean, what really is gonna be the deterrent if we say no smoking in our parks?
It's a
And
tool.
what's the ability to
To me,
enforce?
Hello? The police department is here, Corey's here, he spends a lot of time at Green Square. I think it's a tool that we have the ability to fairly enforce, but you're not always, you have to be realistic. The police are busy with many, many matters, so, it's not gonna be all the time, but we have that tool, and we can utilize it when the police department believes it's appropriate. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we don't have enough police to actually watch every citizen to determine whether, that's obvious, I know, but whether, they're drinking or they're smoking in the park. But when the police are there, if they see a violation, they can, they can enforce the law as specified by the council. But it's not easy. I mean, it's like many laws, you're only able to do so much based on the enforcement and based on the issues in the community.
They use them for habituals. Usually there's a warning, this is what they do in Iowa City.
Well, that's what we have to include is
Yeah. But after the third time, you've asked somebody to put it out, and they don't put it out, then you write them a ticket.
Okay, we need to try to wrap this up to get ready for our next meeting.
I wanted to be able to say something. The call dropped, and so I missed a little bit of the conversation, but wanted to add my 2 cents in on this, if I may.
Sure.
So, one thing, I've actually been pushing for smoke-free, public facilities, for parks, for, restaurants, things like that for about 25 years now. This is something that started very young. I was in a lot of programming, have been doing presentations about this from a very early age. All that being said, this is the direction that we've been going. Dale hit the nail on the head when he said people balked and thought, how are restaurants going to stay in businesses? How are bars going to stay in businesses? And I can tell you from having worked at them that it was devastating to my health when people used to be able to smoke. But everybody, my smoking friends, my non-smoking friends, everybody agrees this is a betterment for us. Certainly, ASAC has solicited every single one of us. I've seen those emails. They're interested in meeting with us and providing that data. So if you have not had an opportunity to meet with them yet, please do. I certainly think that these issues should be parceled out separately. I see Green Square as being a unique entity that should be considered as a one-off. But otherwise, my main proponent is that we continue on this path that we're doing as far as being a healthy city. This is something that we took a lot of pride in earlier this year from work that happened last year. And I think that this goes to incentive or to further those kind of blue zones missions, to further our intentions as far as providing healthy spaces. You know, when I saw the data and the research that ASAC provided, and it was showing how many cigarette butts, which is not new information to me, but how many cigarette butts were around children's playgrounds in our public parks, that, you know, these kids who are learning to walk, crawling, you know, curious minds that are there that they can put in their mouths. Also animals and things like that are right there and exposed to this waste that, although you think it's paper and just some tobacco, there are so many carcinogens that are in cigarettes and cigars and, you know, e-cigarettes and things like that. These things do not just go away when the rain washes. And with these carcinogens, they're literally polluting the environment and take decades to dissolve. And I'd be happy to show you the facts on all of that. So I really think that for our public parks, we should be doing, taking a, you know, leadership position like our neighbors have. I mean, I work on a campus that's smoke-free. We have people that are smokers who work in our building. They are not inconvenienced. They have found workarounds, but it's kind of the same analogy to me that we have with some of our buildings, right? Where we don't idealize having parking out in the front. Why? It's an image thing. It's not a great look for us. I don't think that we should be encouraging smoking in our parks either, because these are our public properties that all of us share. So I really think that we should be encouraging healthy behavior. And, you know, the FDA alone has already started to increase the restrictions that are going to start trending towards how they are in the UK, where they have those very aggressive signs talking about how dangerous tobacco use is for your health. So that's really my take on it. I think that certainly, you know, alcohol is something that we need to be considered. You know, plenty of exemptions, just like we have with parades and special events, where we can have a one-time off. So I think that those are things that we should keep in mind, that we already do this. But like I said, our partners in Marion, they already have smoke-free parks. Certainly the University of Iowa, its campuses can provide a wealth of data about how they were able to have a smoke-free campus. So I'd be happy to you know, work with anybody to provide information on either of those regarding tobacco.
Thank you. What about this? Before or at our next council meeting, we get a report from the PD about alcohol at Green Square, and we put on the agenda an item to ban alcohol at Green Square. We can vote it down if people don't have enough information. And then within 30 days, we'll have a report from staff about alcohol and tobacco at all of our parks.
What about the tobacco at Green Square? Alcohol.
At 30 days, we'll have,
All, you want to consider those all together then, as far as tobacco?
I think, yeah, I don't get the tobacco issue at Green Square. There's not, lots of kids, there's not a playground there, but the alcohol I get. And I think I think that's something that I'm comfortable doing, you know, pretty quickly. But I also I want to consider the rest of it. I want to get the information about tobacco and alcohol at all of our parks, so we can make a decision pretty quickly on that too. But I'd say 30 days on
I'm
that.
interested in the calls for service at Green Square Park regarding alcohol.
Right, that'll be part of the police report. Does that make sense?
I,
And while we do this, why don't we lean on Marion though and ask our partners that we have so many 28D agreements with, and just ask them what it was like, how they got to where they are today, if they've had to hire any more FTE, if this has cost, their police department anything over the norm. I mean, I think those are really important learning tools that we can have. We can also look at the University of Iowa and ask how enforcement has gone with them. They would have that data. This is not something that they did, recently. They've been doing this for years.
Okay. Yeah, anything? Okay, we're gonna adjourn this work session and go upstairs. All right, I think so. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.